jealousy is real. The jealousy is real. This damn dump just can't get out of its own way.
A bombshell truth is rocking the WNBA. Its biggest star is being systematically targeted on the court, and the league is silently watching it happen. What if the officiating chaos isn't just incompetence, but a deliberate campaign to derail her, threatening the very integrity of the sport? The evidence is shocking, and it points to a conspiracy you won't believe. Get ready to see the real story behind the league's biggest controversy.
Instead of protecting the real star, the WNBA chooses to protect the self-proclaimed Bayou Barbie who tours the country pretending to be a star.
The whispers began subtly, then grew into an outright roar across social media. Are WNBA referees deliberately sowing disorder? Fans have coined the chilling nickname Chaos Gremlins with Whistles, suggesting these officials are less about enforcing rules and more about actively creating imbalance on the court.
With the controversial ending to the Fever vs. Liberty game, many WNBA fans are calling out the referee problem, and they are demanding answers and they are demanding changes.
This unsettling theory gained undeniable traction after the controversial conclusion of a specific Indiana Fever game, where the calls, or lack thereof, felt undeniably one-sided. Online forums exploded with accusations, some even alleging that games felt manipulated.
So they start off by sharing that the officiating in the WNBA became as hot button of an issue as any. Heated debates surrounding the league's physicality dominated the headlines, particularly when Indiana Fever star rookie Caitlin Clark was subject to several intentional fouls.
They went as far as to focus on unverified claims about league officials' attire during crucial matchups, interpreting it as a hidden signal of bias. The feeling wasn't just that calls were missed, it was that the entire flow of the game, its very outcome, seemed to be actively steered. This isn't just poor officiating, it's a deeply unsettling perception that the game itself is being engineered. And this alleged intentional chaos doesn't just affect the scoreboard, it appears to have a consistent, unsettling target.
Because there were some suspect calls at the end of that game, and a lot of people felt like the WNBA finals were actually rigged because Kathy Engelbert was also wearing a dress that had the New York City skyline on it, so there was just a bunch of things that seemed kind of fishy.
For Caitlin Clark, the league's electrifying rookie sensation, this isn't merely a few questionable calls. Its entire game's defined by a glaring, perplexing pattern. Time and again, devoted fans and analysts have turned into online detectives, meticulously analyzing replays frame by frame, desperately trying to decipher officiating decisions that simply defy basketball logic.
This past season, many people criticized referees for the amount of physicality that is a part of today's WNBA game, urging officials to better protect players who are subject to hard fouls. But as directly as they may be involved, it's sometimes not entirely their call.
They point to egregious moments, a clear, blatant shove against Clark during a crucial play, obvious to everyone watching, but somehow missed by every official, resulting in no whistle. Yet, mere seconds later, Clark finds herself inexplicably called for a phantom foul for basic defensive positioning, with replays showing absolutely no contact was made.
The problem that a lot of us have with the referees is it's either very physical and they're calling everything, or they're missing calls. There seems to be inconsistencies in how the referees are calling certain games.
This relentless inconsistency, being hammered on drives, shoved on rebounds, even held without a call, while simultaneously being whistled for the most innocuous, non-contact plays, has fueled an undeniable belief among her supporters. She is being unfairly targeted. This isn't just throwing off Clark's rhythm, it's undermining her entire performance and, by extension, the credibility of the game itself. These aren't isolated incidents. They're the harsh, recurring reality of her every game. And what's happening to Clark isn't an anomaly. It's a symptom of a larger systemic problem that casts a shadow over her entire team.
I know that that was something that was going viral on Twitter when we were talking about the referees who were refereeing the Fever and Liberty game, that one of the referees seems like his only experience was actually refereeing high school games.
The spotlight on Caitlin Clark's individual struggles often overshadows a far broader, more damning indictment against the league, the alleged treatment of the entire Indiana Fever roster. What fans describe as some of the most lopsided officiating in professional basketball history extends far beyond one player.
And one of the people that they're actually interviewing, he essentially said that he wrote a letter to the NBA, and he was essentially just a teacher, and he found out that referees got paid a lot more, and he had a passion for basketball, so he wrote a letter to the NBA and then eventually made his way into refereeing for the NBA and was there for many, many years.
This isn't just a few bad calls, it's a deeply entrenched environment where crucial decisions consistently, statistically, go against them. The most glaring evidence? The astronomical free throw differential.
I think sometimes it's misunderstood that referees make those decisions about the style of play and the interpretation of the rules. That's not true. What actually happens is that we have a competition committee for stakeholders, coaches, governors, and general managers, and that competition committee is the committee that dictates the state of the game.
Consider one stark example. In a single matchup against the New York Liberty, an elite team, the Liberty made a staggering 32 trips to the foul line, while Indiana barely managed a tiny fraction of that. This wasn't an isolated incident. Over the course of the season, the Fever have accumulated a reported free throw discrepancy of a staggering -31.
Basically, what I gather from this is there's a committee that is saying what style of basketball they want to allow, what is okay, what is acceptable, what is not, and the referees are following that law. What I also gather from this is that the league is basically saying it can be this physical, let it be this physical.
That number doesn't just raise eyebrows, it fundamentally cripples their ability to compete. Free throws are not just points. They are vital for controlling momentum, for scoring in crunch time, for staying competitive against powerhouse opponents. When a team is systematically denied these opportunities by officiating decisions, it's impossible not to question whether a deep-seated bias is firmly in play. The Fever aren't simply battling their opponents. They are fighting an unseen force that appears to consistently tip the scales against them, game after game. This undeniable pattern of unfairness pushed even their coaching staff to a dramatic public breaking point.
The Fever were on the wrong end of some whistles, it seemed, in this game, and it's seemingly been that way for much of the season, and it's been a recurring theme where there's a level of physicality allowed against them, and they're not allowed to reciprocate on the other end.
Head coach Stephanie White, renowned for her passionate, fiery reactions on the sidelines, has now reached a new pinnacle of frustration, transforming into the most outspoken voice for the Indiana Fever and their exasperated fan base. She isn't just asking, she's demanding consistency, demanding respect.
I thought she got fouled. I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. A -31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable.
Her powerful, emotional press conferences have become a battle cry echoing across the league. It took a mere 4 games into the season for White to publicly declare, in a moment that resonated deeply with fans, "You know what? I've had absolute enough. Game 1, okay. Game 2, all right. Game 3, whatever. But today was the last straw."
You got one player, one valuable asset. You have one star that you should be protecting at all cost. And how does the WNBA treat her? They constantly attack her, they poke her in the eye, then they take cheap shots when she's not looking.
Her frustration visibly boils over as she watches egregious calls, or the glaring lack thereof, repeatedly derail her team's efforts. White speaking up isn't simply an emotional outburst, it's a strategic declaration aiming to secure a better whistle from officials while unequivocally signaling to her team, "I've got your backs." Her impassioned protests echo the widespread sentiment that the officiating isn't just inconsistent, it's actively getting in the way of good, fair basketball. Yet, despite such clear and public pleas from a respected, authoritative voice within the league, the WNBA's highest authority has maintained an eerie, profound silence.
You remember the lopsided officiating that we got last year? The All-Star break comes around, the Olympic break rolls around, and then what did we hear from Lynn Dunn? Lynn Dunn goes on the Dan Dockage show and she calls out the officiating.
In the face of escalating officiating controversies involving Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, the WNBA commissioner's complete and utter public silence speaks volumes. Critics are now branding this leadership vacuum as the human embodiment of the shrug emoji, a stark and biting metaphor for the league's perceived indifference to its most pressing crisis. When the very face of the operation refuses to acknowledge glaring problems, it sends an unmistakable, chilling message. Don't expect change. This silence doesn't just ignore the issues, it amplifies every ignored foul and every phantom call, creating a pervasive sense of injustice that poisons the fan experience.
She calls out the refereeing. She calls out the WNBA, the lopsidedness that is being shown not in favor of the Indiana Fever, the clear biases when it comes to foul calls, the clear biases when it comes to not calling foul calls. Last year, it took us halfway through the season. This year, it took us 4 games.
What's worse, this inaction appears to signal to officials and other players that certain individuals, perhaps those less central to the league's newfound popularity, are somehow protected, even celebrated for aggressive, often unwarranted play. Meanwhile, Clark, the league's undeniable star and economic engine, is left exposed to constant, overtly physical tactics without recourse. It's a dangerous perception that some players are fair game while others are shielded. This isn't just about officiating mistakes. It's about a complete lack of accountability that threatens the very trust fans place in the league and the fairness of the game itself. And this inaction isn't just oversight. It hints at deeper, structural flaws within the league itself.
New York Liberty get to the free throw line 32 times. The Indiana Fever this season have a discrepancy minus 31 when it comes to free throws. That doesn't seem right.
Many critics now believe the root of the problem extends far beyond individual referees, reaching into the very core of the league's officiating oversight framework. There are serious questions being raised about the WNBA's process for scouting and training officials, which some describe as shockingly lax, offering no real mechanism for accountability or correction.
Shout out to Stephanie White. The Fever coach stood up for her team. She demanded respect and she blasted. So by White speaking up, not only is it a tactic to get a better whistle from the refs, but it's also a statement to say, I've got your backs to the team. And I think it needed to be said, particularly when applying it to the Indiana Fever.
The alarming suggestion is that a self-policing culture has been allowed to fester, where mistakes pile up unchecked. Compounding this, the original information indicates the existence of a competition committee, a powerful, shadowy group comprised of stakeholders, coaches, governors, and general managers that explicitly dictates the style of play and the interpretation of rules.
It's taken 4 games for Stephanie White to say, you know what? I've had absolute enough. Game 1, okay. Game 2, okay. Game 3, all right. But today was the last straw when it came for Stephanie White.
This revelation potentially absolves individual referees of full responsibility, suggesting they might simply be following a directive to allow a more physical, even chaotic brand of basketball. This raises a deeply unsettling question. Is this consistent chaos, often perceived as fueled by jealousy from other players towards Clark's meteoric rise, intentionally allowed or even subtly encouraged to generate controversy and, ultimately, media attention and ratings?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a system to making sure that we can send stuff in and communicate our grievances, so to speak. I don't know that I ever feel like the system works. We're not looking for a change. We're just looking for consistency. I felt like the second half of Atlanta, at least at our place, was at least consistent. Right. And that's the thing that we're looking for.
The cynical view that the league needs drama to survive, even at the cost of fair play, gains alarming traction as fans watch these issues persist without any meaningful intervention. The consequences of this unchecked, potentially manipulated system are now threatening the very foundation and future of the WNBA. The WNBA stands at a critical, perilous crossroads. The pervasive issues of alleged biased officiating, the commissioner's deafening silence, and potential systemic failures are putting the entire league under an unprecedented, unforgiving spotlight. Fans are diligently documenting every missed call, every perplexing flop, and every baffling whistle, painting a clear picture of a league in profound crisis. The WNBA's profound, almost total reliance on Caitlin Clark for its current surge in popularity cannot be overstated. consider the chilling evidence. When she was briefly sidelined due to injury, ratings across the league reportedly plummeted by a staggering 55%, ticket prices nosedived, and mainstream interest in the sport seemingly evaporated. The colossal, embarrassing failure of related ventures, like the ill-fated Unrivaled without her central presence, only underscores this absolute dependency. The league simply cannot afford to alienate the massive wave of new fans she's brought into the fold. If this alarming pattern of unfairness and inexplicable inaction continues, the WNBA risks losing more than just games. It risks its hard-won credibility, its hard-earned momentum, and ultimately, its very existence. The choice facing the league's leadership is stark. Confront these issues head-on with decisive action, transparent accountability, and a renewed commitment to fair play, or watch its brightest star fade, inevitably dragging the league's future down with her. That chilling question now looms larger than any final score.